everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trident Talks. I'm Josh, the founder of Trident, and today very pleased to be joined by Dave Kennedy, multi-time founder, but particularly of TrustedSec and Binary Defense. Dave, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, Josh, thanks so much for having me on, dude. Appreciate it, and glad to be here.
Awesome. So, Dave, I wanted to bring you on for quite a unique and specific kind of conversation point, if you like, which is all about health, fitness, and kind of how it relates to being kind of an entrepreneur, and more importantly, and specifically to cybersecurity, right? We could kind of roll into that, but let's kind of kick it way back to kind of military days. Talk to us kind of who is Dave Kennedy, kind of bring us up to present day.
Yeah, so I almost failed out of high school, and because I just didn't like going to school. I was into computers, programming, all that other stuff. It's definitely kind of a little bit of an overweight kid. I remember walking into the Marines. I was like, college probably isn't the right thing for me since I literally just almost failed out of high school. So I'm like, let's just check out the military, and decided to go into the Marines and tested really high in the ASVAB test, which is kind of like their aptitude test for, where you can place as far as like job roles and responsibilities. And I placed really high, so they gave me an intelligence job doing I had government clearance, top secret clearance, and did a lot of like signals intelligence, hacking, things like that. Joined the Marines, did a couple tours in Iraq. I spent about about 2.5 years in the Middle East on my 5-year deployment in the Marines, and then got out. I was everything from a chief security officer for a Fortune 1000 company to just starting a bunch of companies. I think between TrustedSec and Binary Defense, we have over about 400 employees right now. So we're definitely, it's crazy to start a company in the basement of your house. Didn't have any VC funding or anything like that. Kind of grassrooted the whole thing and built it up from scratch. I had no idea what I was doing, just kind of figured it out and, kind of went from there. So that's kind of a little bit about myself there.
Awesome. What a journey. Let's just pick apart some of that. Marines, what was your kind of branch specialization? What did you do?
Yeah, so I was what was called a 2621, which was signals intelligence for like a CT. And I was stationed in a really horrible duty station in Hawaii, the worst ever. Definitely didn't do a lot of scuba diving every time or skip meetups or things like that. But it was a good place to have your first duty station at. I met my wife when I was at home, and we ended up she ended up flying out with me to Hawaii, and she had a year there, before I got out. But I actually met my wife for 24 days. We started dating, and then I deployed to Iraq for a year. So if you can make it through, a year of a long distance relationship with only knowing somebody for 20 days or so, you can literally make it through everything. And we have, 3 kids now and doing great. She was a huge inspiration to, starting my 2 companies. And she's our CFO at TrustedSec, and we still work, we work really well together and everything. But, did a lot of military intelligence stuff. I got really big into cybersecurity, kind of the early forms of exploitation, red teaming, computer network operations, CNO, CNA, and really started focusing more on kind of the offensive capabilities and kind of the early grounds of the security industry of what we know today.
Amazing. Yeah, just be careful what you say about Hawaii, because you could be talking to a lot of people from London here who or in the UK who just see this like Hawaiian kind of tropical island. But I can imagine where you were based in a basement of a concrete building, a military, doing SIGINT work. But people have a different.
Hawaii was beautiful. It was definitely in jest. I loved my time I was there. It was a beautiful island, but I did literally work in like no windows, nothing like that. So I didn't really get to see a lot of the bright sunshine every day. But when I got to do the runs and go out on the weekends and things like that, if I wasn't getting yelled at,
your wife enjoyed it at least, right? While you're working in the basement,
she had a great time. Yeah, she was a sign language interpreter for the deaf, so she worked for the schools, and they would always be outside and everything. She's like, "Oh my God, the day I spent all outside with the kids." I'm like, "Hey, that's great. I haven't even seen the sun today, so
super suntanned, not."
Yeah. Yeah, she's like, "Why does Aaron always have it tan?" It's like, "Because I'm always working inside. Like I literally get there before the sun comes up. I'm going there when the sun's going down." So, yep.
Yeah, I love it. So you went into consulting. I saw bit in cyber, right, or security at least.
Yeah, so when I first got out, I joined a small consulting shop called Secure State, and was there for I think about 4 or 5 years, where I really kind of homed in on offensive capabilities. I was really big into penetration testing, exploit research, built a number of open source tools like the Social Engineer Toolkit, Magic Unicorn, a number of other tools. I got an opportunity because I was running their entire consulting practice by the time I left to become a chief security officer for a Fortune 1000 company at 26 years old. I was 26, no degree, and got to run a global, cybersecurity program for a Fortune 1000 company which was really cool. I was the youngest VP in Diebold history, which was really cool. And it's funny because you read all these books on how to be an executive or what to do. I just kind of made it my own. And whenever I'd go and present in front of the board, they loved me because I was just a goofball. I'd throw jokes in there and they're laughing. I remember one of my times, my first board presentation, our CIO was one of my good friends. He's like, hey, go in there and just make sure you present your stuff and don't, veer off like you normally do. Just do this, 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 this. I'm like, okay, sounds good. And of course I veered off, and I was showing this this map of the attacks that we got. We were using ArcSight at the time. We had these like dynamic maps that would show like people that were scanning us or attacking our infrastructure. Yeah. And it was during the NHL, hockey Stanley Cup week. And you could see all these attacks happening from the rest of the world, but there was 0 attacks coming from Canada. So I made a joke there, the Canadians don't hack during Stanley Cup, so we're good from that threat model perspective. Everybody starts laughing, and so had a really good relationship, forged a lot of good stuff, and really built a amazing security program at an early age. I bought beer and pizza for the IT folks, had great relationship with them. I mean, just a really fun time. It was great.
So 26 years old, right? That is insane, right? So you have to have a whole ton of credibility and fundamentals and obviously knowledge, et cetera, and expertise to be able to hold your own in a conversation like a boardroom, because you can't just be a joker and be the jester of the company because you're running the security function, right? So the whole threat modeling piece, about to use ArcSight for things like attack models and all that kind of stuff, right? Is you kind of gloss over it quite humbly, but let's just bring it back to 26 years old is insane. I'm trying to think what I did at 26. I just left the Marines, actually. So and then because of this, the kind of topic of this podcast is about health. Tell us about so you left the Marines, Hawaii, you probably living the dream, flipping burgers every night. But you then go to consulting, right, which is a grueling life. Everyone knows that. You're living out a black bag, traveling, etc. Then to go work for a Fortune 1000 or a huge Diebold. How's the health throughout that process, and kind of what did you look like? Because were you a CrossFitter like you are now, like ripped, or what was life like?
Not at all. In fact, I've always struggled with weight my whole life. Going into the Marines, I actually had to go into what was called physical conditioning platoon, or PCP. I think they also call it the pork chop platoon. And so, I had to go a couple extra months in boot camp, unfortunately, just to pass the initial strength test, just to be able to pass, because I really hadn't done, fitness. And while I was in the Marines, I stayed relatively lean, but what I didn't, understand was my health at that point. The Marines are forcing you to run, 10 miles a day and everything else. And yeah, I might be eating 4,000 or 5,000 calories and not eating well, but you're just burning so many calories with just being high speed and doing everything you're doing. And you're 140-degree heat in the desert, you're shaving 4,000 calories a day. So, as soon as I got out of the military, I started ballooning up again. And, I think at my heaviest, I was about 316 pounds, and that was definitely not muscle. And,
how tall are you? Sorry, just for context.
6'4".
Oh, so you're a big dude.
I'm a big dude. Yeah, for sure. And, okay. And so, I, during consulting, during the Diebold times, I definitely wasn't taking care of myself. I think everything I did, all my health, all my brain power, everything else went into my career, right? And my family. And I didn't focus anything on health. And when I was at Diebold, something actually happened where I had a heart issue, and I had to get heart surgery. And the doctor said to me, he's like, listen, I think it was 27 or 28 at the time. He's like, hey, you shouldn't be having these heart issues at your age. He's like, you need to get your shit under control. Sorry for the language. You got to get your stuff under control.
No, it's fine.
Okay, cool. Get your stuff under control, or you're not going to be around for your kids. And that like literally jolted me into a whole different kind of mindset of how I needed to look at things a little bit differently. And so I really started to focus on it. And I still struggled. I dropped a bunch of weight. I was, I think at my leanest about 180 pounds. I was like sticking bones. My wife's like, you're too bony, so you need to go a little bit higher. But really about 4 years ago or so, I found who's one of my good friends now, Ben Canning. He's my trainer, and really started diving down into understanding my body, understanding, calories in versus calories out, my macros, being consistent. Consistency is probably the most important thing, discipline around that. And then really just getting into a program that I knew I could follow for the rest of my life. And that was really life-changing for me. And what I can say is that, I think when you're in your 20s, you can get away with a lot of things. Your mind still operates at a high performing rate, but as you start to dip into your 30s, and especially in your 40s, you can't keep doing, the pushing yourself till 3 or 4 o'clock at night, sleeping 2 hours and pushing yourself again. I mean, that's what I was doing every day, and obviously alcohol was involved in that too. Never had a problem with it, but I'm at night drinking, and I'm, having some whiskey and coding till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, wake up, go to work, for 8 hours, come home. I'm a disaster, but I'm still working till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning again. It has a toll on your body that really started to impact me in a lot of ways. And what I can honestly say now is that, I have full control over my health, my body, what I do, how I do things, and my biomarkers, my blood work, like everything is back into like being in my early 30s again. I feel like the most I've ever had before. And one thing I'll say is like my mental clarity and my ability to run multiple successful businesses has been amplified tenfold because I've been focusing on my health. And that I think was the biggest game changer for me.
Yeah, I love that. And just for context for everyone that's listening, you set up Binary Defense and TrustedSec in 2012, was it?
So 2012 was TrustedSec, 2014 was Binary Defense. Yep.
Okay, cool. And again, for more context, you have an offensive and a defensive security business. That's what they both are. Say again, I don't want to generalize them, but
I would say consulting versus services is the best way of explaining. So we do a lot of defensive work over at TrustedSec, but all consulting work. Whereas Binary Defense, we have our own managed detection and response services that we focus on defending customers. But yes, very, 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 very good analogy. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. And are they two separate entities?
Yeah, two separate entities, two separate staff, support, everything else. Yep. They're in different locations, different leadership teams, but we work very closely together. We consider ourselves, sister companies. We work very closely together with one another.
Yeah, which makes total sense, right? Especially when you're chasing clients and cross-selling and all sorts of bits, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So, okay, cool. So you said two different locations. I assume you still travel?
Travel quite a bit. Not as much as I used to. I think right now is a critical stage with my kids. They're both. I have twins that are 13, and I have a 15-year-old going on 16. And so I coach basketball. I'm actively involved in everything they're doing. So I try to keep travel to a balance. Definitely where it's important, where I need to be. But at the end of the day, like I definitely can control my own schedule, and I focus family first. Business kind of that same component as well too.
Give us an idea. How often are you traveling? Once a month in terms of like for 3 days, or?
Yeah, I'd say once a month, probably an accurate portrayal. Anywhere between 1 to 3 days a month. Yep.
Okay. And so I travel a bit more than that, and I'm looking more for advice here. How do you control your health? I've got an idea on macros, because I can guarantee you probably eyeball stuff now and go, well, that's roughly X. I know I've had enough protein today, and I've prioritized that over whatever. And you probably limit on the alcohol now as well, but a few blowouts or whatever, but more balance. If I'm traveling to DC next week and I'm there for 5 days, is there any controls, or what do you do? What would you do if you're in my shoes to keep the balance? Because mental clarity and high performance is so important, especially during that week when it's just slammed with meetings.
Yeah. So, the biggest thing that I can recommend is consistency. So I still actually track my macros. I still I use MyFitnessPal, and I actually track all my macros even when I'm traveling. So, when I'm traveling, I know that if I'm going to be going out and maybe having a couple drinks, and it's going to be, a high caloric, type of dinner, I'll probably shave a little bit of calories in the, for breakfast and lunch, still focusing on high protein and making my protein goals. I also make sure that, I have my days planned to where I can still get, my resistance training in, or so my routine is I do typically 5 days a week of resistance training and 2 days of HIIT training. So more cardiovascular work, things like that. So I do Orange Theory twice a week, which is, just the, place you can go and do HIIT training. And then I do 5 days of just, lifting weights. So I usually schedule my hotel that's closest to the gym that I want to go to, or if they have a good gym, that's even better. And then whatever timeframes my meetings are, I make sure that I spend enough time in the mornings to get my lift in, so that, and obviously protein intake. So I usually will go to the store right when I land, go get some protein shakes. Sometimes I'll hit up GNC to get some pre-workouts, or, might bring it with me. It depends. I keep all my vitamins in, one big, tub that, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that are listed up.
Yeah.
I'm very methodical in how I go about doing everything and making sure I track my calories. My biggest thing, don't get me wrong, it's not like I can't break the bank, but you want to stay consistent with everything around, making sure that you have your protein, you're making sure you get enough sleep. I try to get minimally 7 hours of sleep, every day. That works best for me. Anything more than that or anything less than that, I get kind of like different. But
yeah,
I think the biggest thing is just sticking with your routine, even when you're traveling, knowing that you're going to be busy.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So good example. So when I go to DC, I stay in Navy Yard, and the hotel we use, opposite is a Whole Foods, to the right is an Orange Theory. There's a gym downstairs, so you kind of like
Perfect.
it's walking. It's like there's no excuses, right? And you're like,
Yep.
right, as long as you plan it and you prioritize. Yes, you're spending more money in Whole Foods than you would at home, but you know then it all aids towards a more productive week, and you feel good, right? There's this I actually it's more towards the consultants out there in the world, the cyber
Yeah,
consulting firms, right? Because that is a tough gig, as you know.
it is.
And it's on the road all the time.
Yeah, because in consulting, is a very high stress type of profession because you're meeting new people, new customers, having to perform at a high level at all times. As you're going through, you're being relied upon as a subject matter expert for the folks that you're dealing with, and so you want to make sure though that you don't burn yourself out as you're going through it. So there's a good balance and I think delicacy that you can do between the health and fitness to everything else. Like I was just in New York recently, and I planned my flights so that I could get in, get to my hotel room, go to the store, pick up some stuff, get settled in, got 8 hours of sleep, or 7 hours of sleep, woke up the next morning. Orange Theory was a block and a half away, did my Orange Theory, came back, showered, changed, went to my meetings, came back, did resistance training at night, got, a good 7 hours of sleep, had more meetings throughout the day, got my lift in at night. Sometimes, I might shift between night and day depending on my lifts, but I'm still getting,
Yeah.
those workout routines in, but I'm not out partying, all night, with alcohol and everything else. Now, don't get me wrong. Like there was a night where I was out with a customer and, that night, we were out till probably 11 o'clock, 11:30, which is late for me, drinking, and, the next morning still woke up, got my workout in, went about it. So, it's just,
Yeah.
you can do both, be social, go out and do things, but you still need to accomplish things for your health because what all the science and research and everything is showing is that if you want to live longer, there's the cardiovascular health, there's the bone density, grip strength, and muscle mass. Those all equate to living longer, less chance of cancer, less chance of heart attacks, less chance of just immediately dying off of the case. But what's interesting is you look at some of the leading causes of death, and cardiovascular being number one, cancer I think being number
Yep.
two. But what they look at is grip strength is a high indicator of how long you're going to live, which I thought was a really weird one. And
Okay.
and why that is as you get older, if you think about it, you look at some of the leading causes of death, and falling down, breaking your hip, or falling down, not being able to catch yourself is high
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
there. So if you maintain strength as you get older, being able to hold yourself up and catch yourself, not fall and be fragile and frail, you live longer as you go through and do those. So, there's just study after study after study that, if you want the mental clarity, like Dr. Rhonda Patrick is a person I follow quite a bit. She's one of the leading
Yep.
researchers on, health and longevity, along with like Dr. Huberman and Dr. Attia and a few others. But Dr. Rhonda Patrick said, just recently, like one of the best things you can do that gives the most amount of dopamine release and the positive good feeling, as well as clean neurotoxins and everything else in your body, making you feel that mental clarity isn't a supplement or isn't a drug or isn't anything else. It's literally going on and putting your body through an intense workout. And that will
Yep.
get you the best feeling possible for what you're doing and performing at a high level. And there's no question that that's the case, for how I felt. I mean, I run a hormone replacement therapy company as well that I helped start with one of my buddies, Emil. And why I did that one, and you're like, well, you're a cybersecurity guy. Why would you do telemedicine and all this other stuff? And it's interesting is a buddy of mine messaged me, and I was struggling from fatigue. I was always tired. I just couldn't. I just like couldn't keep my weight off. I was just, in a dire state. And he's like, dude, you should get your testosterone levels checked, especially being in the military, all this other stuff. Like you're exposed to a lot of stuff over there. So why don't you just go get it checked? I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, why would you say that? And I'm sure my testosterone levels are fine,
Yeah, I can grow
and
a beard, right? Yeah, look at me.
yeah, look at my beard, like I'm very manly, like I can drink some whiskey. I'm good, but,
Yeah.
got my levels checked and I was like really low 200s, which is like a 70-year-old male. And I was like, oh my God, like, what does that mean? So I started supplementing with testosterone. And, about a month and a half later, like, it was like I was back in my 20s again. Like my energy levels shot up, my ability to, maintain muscle mass shot up, my clarity, in my mind, my brain fog was completely gone. And, I don't know how long I was, with low testosterone, but that was just a huge game changer for me that literally helped change my life amongst obviously a lot of other things around, eating well and consistency around my training routines. But testosterone was a huge part of that. So I believed in the company that I was, that was running it. So I invested in that. So I'm a partner in there, and we help a lot of people. And it's amazing to see how many males really have hormonal imbalances that causes some major issues in their life. I mean, you're talking being on antidepressants and all this other stuff, and they come completely off of it, when they get their hormonal levels in check and they start, actually focusing on their health. It's just a completely different ball game that we're dealing with, and we have the science today to be able to do it.
What's the website?
It's IAMHRT.com. So Illinois Alternative Medicine is the name of the company.
We'll put it in the link. Yeah.
IAMHRT.com.
And I have the ability, for example, to go on there. I can get a testosterone test, and then you can go, hey, you need XXX, and then
Yeah, so the way it works is you literally go on the website, you sign up. If you already have blood work, you can upload it. We can use that.
Okay.
Or they'll send you to a local lab corp. The doctor prescribe. We have doctors on staff. We'll prescribe you, local lab corp test. You get your blood work done. And it's not just testosterone. I mean, it could be hormonal imbalances in other areas like your thyroid, IGF-1 levels, cardiovascular stuff. If your ApoB's out of whack, for example, or kidney liver issues, like we're a full longevity clinic. Trying to help you balance out your blood work. And it's not just, pumping you with drugs. It's focusing on the things that will make a big difference in you living longer as you go out of there. And then everything's just, shipped to your house, literally. So as soon as you get the blood work results back, usually doctor within a day, you have a meeting with the doctor goes over your results. We build a plan. You may not need anything at all. Everything looks good. Hey, hunky dory. But maybe you need some stuff, and it gets shipped right to your door, usually within like 2 days after your doctor's visit. So, and then it's just reoccurring as you want it. There's no subscription. You can cancel anytime. Really just trying to help people out with identifying things that are wrong in their body.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll put the link into it so people can actually check it out. It must be scary, the amount of male and female people that will walk around every day thinking they've got deficiencies in particular areas, when actually it might just be a hormone imbalance. And you just don't know, right? It's almost like an attack surface management company, discovery business for a human.
Doesn't it sound very aligned to cybersecurity? It's like you're doing the same thing basically. It just happens to be with your body, right? It's like, hey, what's going on? Let's do a pen test on your body and figure out, what's actually occurring here. And I can show you like message after message after message with these both men and women. For women, estrogen and progesterone happen to be two major hormonal imbalances, especially as you start to go like premenopause, postmenopause. There's so many studies showing that, one, you can reduce the symptoms of menopause as you go through it through hormone replacement therapy, most specifically substituting, estrogen or estradiol, as well as progesterone, but also the longevity impacts of that. You live longer by supplementing those hormones as you get older. And the same thing for testosterone. People will say, well, you get a higher increased chance of prostate cancer. That was an old study back in 2014 that had bad data. All the data that's coming out now from like 2018 plus are showing like reduction actually in prostate cancer, reduction in all cause mortality, increased cardiovascular support, increase in your ability to live longer, increase in mental clarity, mental focus, your neuroreceptors, like everything starts firing. Like testosterone to us and men are like literally the miracle hormone that we have that can literally fix a lot of issues like, potentially, mental depression. I'm not saying that's a cure for that, but I've seen a lot of folks come off of SSRIs just by fixing their hormonal imbalances. And most men don't know. It's a taboo thing to talk about, right?
Yeah. Let's finish super quickly on diet and nutrition. I personally, to talk about, and we kind of maybe link it into a bit of a morning routine, right? So for me personally, this is because my diet always starts with getting out of bed, and it's like how I eat in the morning or don't will then link to the rest of my day, right? And how it follows. So for example, I've worked out over the years that if I fast and just go black coffee, green tea and water, and with I take a lot of hydration tablets because I know I lose salts more than the average person. I'll do that if I have a really busy morning of meetings, right? And I feel like I'm mentally sharp because as soon as I chuck a load of oats in my body, I'm sluggish. I've got to digest it, etc. It takes blood away from my vitals, all the usual stuff, right? Which is pretty. It's been researched to hell, right? But it's true, and for me personally, it works. And I then get a bit itchy and aggy around lunchtime that I then need to eat, right? And then again, it's just as important what I put in my body initially because again, if it's high carbs, I get sluggish. So introduce it slowly. Some days I'll just have a big bowl of oats in the morning and I'm good, right? But I know if I'm traveling, especially if I need to be sharp, I'm like not necessarily kind of the fast kind of 18-hour fast followed by whatever break and where it is. But do you have a routine, and in particularly kind of how does that lead to your nutrition?
Yeah, one thing I'll say is that everybody's different. Some people are like, well, carnivore is the way to go, keto is the way to go, this is the way to go. Whatever works for you. But at the end of the day, what the research shows, and you can talk, like Dr. Elaine Norton's got a lot of great studies on this, as well as, Dr. Huberman and a bunch of others. there is no benefit in any way, shape, or form for fat loss for any of these diets. At the end of the day, it comes in as calories in versus calories out. Now,
Yeah,
there's benefits though to certain things, like you mentioned intermittent fasting. Our bodies are designed to, like let's just say 2,000 years ago when we didn't have DoorDash and access to all these different foods. And if we were starving and it was a bad season and we had no food, if our bodies, when they didn't get food, just completely shut down, we'd be dead as a species, right?
Yep.
So what ends up happening is our bodies then ramp up, increase our production. We're mentally sharp and crisp. Our energy levels increase because we have to be at our top top of our game to go and hunt animals and get the food to protect our tribes and everything else. So there's a lot of good data behind intermittent fasting, and I actually do it fasted cardio HIIT training. I find that to be much more energetic than not. Now, when I'm doing resistance training, I definitely try to stack up a bit on carbs prior to. Depends on the timing. So like if I'm going to go to the gym in like an hour and a half or 2 hours, I'll get some complex carbohydrates, some whole wheat bagels or something like that. If I'm going to go in like a half hour, 20 minutes, I might just do some like Rice Krispie treats with some some milk on it that gives me some quick spike in glucose that allows me to replenish my glycogen stores as I'm going through and actually doing my workouts. But for me, what tends to work out is I have a set amount of calories and I'm either in a caloric deficit or I'm in a caloric surplus or I'm in maintenance. But it's a very thin margin. I'm not doing like 10,000 calories and putting on 50 pounds a month.
It's manageable, right?
It's manageable. Yeah. So if I want to gain additional muscle mass, it shows research shows you want to be in a surplus to amplify as much muscle mass as you possibly can during those periods of time. So it's what's unfortunately resulted it's got a bad term, but the bulking and cutting, right? But it's not extreme. It's very temperamental. So like, for example, if I'm in a bulking phase, I might start off around, 3,000 calories. And eventually at the end of my bulking, I'll be around 4,000 calories, but I'm only putting on maybe a pound or two a week. Right. And that's the maximum amount of weight that I want to gain. If I'm getting too much, then I drop down in calories. If I'm getting too little, I increase calories, and as you start to gain more and more muscle, like, my last, surplus cycle, I went to 252. I'm down to 230 right now. I'm in a slight deficit, right? So I'm dropping the weight, removing the excess body fat that I had, while still maintaining muscle mass and not losing, muscle mass. And so it's just this ebbs and flows. So normally my day starts off with, if I'm lifting, I'll grab some carbohydrates, protein in the morning, essential amino acids, go and work out. If I'm not, I'll do it on a fasted stomach. Post workout, I'm eating a pretty heavy meal. That's going to recover my glycogen stores, heavy protein. Usually I'm around 80 to 90 grams of protein post workout meal. There's a lot of research that's showing that the 30 grams of protein stuff that we were taught, that the maximum absorption is not true. You can actually eat as much protein as you want to in a given time. We'll still have the same impact. Otherwise the intermittent fasting folks would literally have no muscle whatsoever because they have fasting windows. It's and then usually lunch, fairly light lunch. I usually do like rice and chicken or, whatever, but it'll be centric on carbohydrates and proteins. I usually do more of a high carb, high protein, low fats. But again, that works for me. Some people are really big on, fats and proteins, and that works great for them. It just depends on how your body responds to certain things and how you feel throughout the whole day. But I usually try to get around 250 grams of protein a day is my set goal. And then I supplement that with carbohydrates and fats, depending on what else it is. And if I'm in a deficit, that 250 grams of protein still stays, and I just drop my fat or my carbohydrates to hit those specific caloric goals.
So that removes your calories, right? Okay, cool.
Yep.
But you keep your protein higher to keep muscle mass, etc. Right? Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Understood. Awesome. Well, look, I appreciate firstly your time. Secondly, I hope people watching and listening in can kind of go, you can build a business and be somewhat unhealthy, right? It's the longevity to it is questionable, and there's no right or wrong. But look what you can do if you are fit, healthy, sharp. You can coach basketball with your kids. You can do all sorts of things, right? And there's other motivations and why, right, behind it. Not necessarily just so you can be an unbelievable hacker or you can be an awesome kind of cybersecurity entrepreneur. There's a bigger mission to it, right? For different people for different reasons.
Yeah, for me, it's to be there longer for my kids, right? To live longer so I can be there for my kids. But one thing I can say is that, I prioritize my day in a way that doesn't hinder my ability to do the things right for my body and to be healthy. And I'm still able to manage two very large cybersecurity companies. I mean, again, almost over 400 employees, worldwide. work with some of the biggest companies out there. My days are demanding. I'm busy all the time. I'm traveling. I'm doing all these things. I'm managing my family, I'm managing my businesses. I have 3 other businesses that we didn't even talk about. I have a basketball training facilities and a bunch of others. I'm managing all of those in a way that still allows me to be successful in my health goals. And they're all synergistic. I am at a top of my game when it comes to my mental clarity, my energy levels, everything else are all optimized to be able to function at a high level because of all the things I'm doing to support that.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll leave it there because, again, you are a busy man. I appreciate your
Awesome.
time and thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Really appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dave.